God's silence is not absence, it's strategy. Have you ever felt like you're crying out, but heaven stays silent? Like your prayers vanish into the air, as if God is quiet? You're not alone. Here's what few dare to say out loud. Sometimes God chooses to be silent on purpose. But that silence isn't empty. That silence is a divine weapon, a sacred moment where He prepares what the enemy will never see coming. In the spiritual realm, silence is not inactivity. It's a strategy of war. While you think nothing is happening, God is moving invisible pieces. He's silencing voices raised against you. He's stopping attacks you haven't even imagined. He's testing your heart, because only those who wait will inherit what is eternal. And here's the most hidden truth that many don't want to admit. Satan panics when you remain silent, because he needs your complaints to act. But when you choose silence, you leave him blind and deaf. So today, God says to you, be still, my child. Stay silent. Wait, because everything will be yours. But it won't be yours by shouting or demanding. It will be yours because you waited without breaking the covenant of trust. And in that silence is the most powerful roar of heaven. The war is won in secret. Look around you. Everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to give their opinion. But how many have the courage to stay silent when their soul is screaming for answers? This world taught you that silence means defeat. But the kingdom of God teaches the opposite. He who remains silent under God's will is the one who conquers everything. Let me tell you something rarely preached from the pulpits, yet absolutely true. The greatest miracles happen in the dark. In the cave where no one sees you. In the night where no one hears you. In the secret place where only you and God exist. And there, when everything seems ruined, God begins to build your victory. Many don't understand it because they live off signs, noise, and approval. But you weren't called to walk by sight. You were called to walk by faith. And true faith sometimes says nothing. It just waits. It just trusts. Do you know why God hasn't answered yet? Because He doesn't want to give you a blessing you're not ready to carry. He loves you too much to give you something that would destroy you. So remain silent. It's not punishment. It's training. You are not alone. You're being prepared to carry what others couldn't even touch. There's something hell cannot stand. A child of God who stays silent when they have every reason to explode. Why do you think the enemy keeps provoking you? Because he needs your reaction. He needs you to speak out of turn, to curse your process, to question the divine plan. But when you choose silence, when you choose to look to heaven instead of your circumstances, you strip the enemy of his power. The silence of the righteous is an act of spiritual warfare. It's like a knife cutting through invisible chains. It's like fire consuming the lies of hell. Remember Jesus before Pilate? He had every right to defend himself, but he stayed silent because his silence was speaking in another dimension. His silence was not weakness. It was authority, and that authority opened the door to eternal redemption. You are not being ignored by God. You are being refined in the furnace of silence. Don't forget this. He who knows how to stay silent learns to hear the voice that truly matters. And when the time comes, you will speak with an authority that will make hell tremble. This is the part many Christians don't want to accept. God is not punishing you. He's training you to reign. And only those who survive the silence will see how everything will be theirs. What God prepares in silence, no one can steal. Listen carefully. What God is preparing for you in secret, no one will be able to take away. It doesn't matter how many envy you. It doesn't matter how many speak against you. It doesn't matter how many want to see you fall. If you remain silent and wait on God, what's coming is incorruptible. Do you know why the enemy panics when you don't respond to provocations? Because your silence leaves him with no legal argument in the spiritual realm. Yes, you read that right. Hell operates through spiritual legality. It needs you to speak outside of God's will in order to gain permission to touch what belongs to you. That's why heaven whispers loudly today, be silent, just wait, and everything will be yours. But it won't be yours because you snatched it by human strength. It will be yours because you received it through obedience and supernatural patience. Here's the secret many ignore. God doesn't reward haste. He rewards perseverance. And in your silence, God is writing a story no one will be able to erase. Remember Job? When everything collapsed, he didn't curse God. He stayed silent. He waited. And in the end, God gave him double. Don't be mistaken. Your silence is not abandonment. It's the seed of glory. Heaven speaks softly, so only the intimate ones can hear. God's voice doesn't compete with the noise of the world. It doesn't shout. It doesn't force itself in. It speaks softly, ever so softly. And only those who've learned to quiet their soul, to shut out external voices, to resist the urge to explain, defend, or justify themselves, can hear what others will never understand. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Many lose their blessing because they can't handle the silence. They need to speak. They need to understand. They need immediate results. But that's not how the kingdom works. God trains his own in the desert of silence. There where no one applauds. There where there are no cameras or likes. There where the only voice that matters is the Father's. Did you know Moses heard God in the desert? Not in Egypt with all his fame, not in the palace with all his comfort, but in solitude, in silence. Because God doesn't speak when everything is noisy. He speaks when everything has been silenced. And here's what few dare to say. There are blessings that only activate when you remain silent. Because those who don't know how to be silent interrupt God. So if everything around you feels quiet today, don't panic. You may not be being ignored. You may be being visited. But only those who learn to be still will be able to hear what heaven is revealing. The promise given in silence is the one that cannot be stolen. There are blessings that get announced and then lost because they were spoken too soon, because the heart swelled with pride or the tongue outran God. But then there are others, the ones sealed in secret, the ones God delivers in silence. Those aren't broadcasted, aren't flaunted, and can't be tainted. Here's a truth many don't want to face. God does not entrust his greatest treasures to reckless mouths. You're being tested not only in your faith, but in your ability to protect what God has not yet revealed. Look at Joseph. He had heavenly dreams, but he spoke too soon and was thrown into a pit. Did God abandon him? No, but the process was delayed. The lesson was clear. Not everything God shows you is meant to be shared. Heaven is saying, if you can wait in silence without murmuring, without running to tell everyone, then you are ready to receive what the world won't be able to understand. Because there are things that, if spoken too early, attract unnecessary battles. Do you know what the wise do? They see the fulfillment from afar and remain silent. Because they know silence not only protects, it matures. The enemy cannot steal what he doesn't know exists. And what God is forming in you, in the midst of silence, is a destiny so great, only heaven is authorized to fully see it. When everything is silent, it's because heaven is at work. There's a spiritual moment that very few recognize. It's when everything seems paused. No answers, no signs, no progress, just silence. But that silence is not abandonment. It's heavenly activity. Let me be clear. When you hear nothing, It's because heaven is busier than ever on your behalf. God is aligning the pieces, closing the wrong doors, exposing hidden enemies, destroying traps you didn't even know existed. But all of this, He does in silence, because heaven doesn't need noise to perform miracles. And you? Are you willing to trust when you see and hear nothing? Because this is where the line is drawn between emotional followers and true sons and daughters. Here's something you won't hear preached in many churches. God doesn't respond just to ease your emotions. He responds when His answer won't harm you. And many times, silence is the greatest wall of protection you have. So if you're in a pause today, if everything is quiet, don't panic. That's a sign heaven is under construction. And when God finishes what He's building, He'll give you everything. No noise, no struggle, no debt. You'll simply say, "It was worth waiting in silence." When you keep silent, God speaks with authority. Now listen carefully, because this is the truth that transforms. Your silence is not empty. It's heaven's language. It is a signal in the spiritual realm that you've surrendered control and placed God on the throne of your process. Do you want everything to be yours? Do you want to inherit what God promised you? Then die to the need to speak. Die to the urge to explain yourself, to defend yourself, to be understood by others. Because you're not called to convince anyone. You're called to obey the Father. Here's what many hide behind their polished sermons. There are battles that are not won with shouting, but with silence. With a faith so firm, so deep, it no longer needs visible proof. It only needs one word from God. And if that word hasn't come yet, then wait and be silent, because what's coming for you is so glorious, so eternal, so supernatural, that it can only be received by those who have endured the fire of silence without turning back. God hasn't forgotten you. God hasn't ignored you. God is forming you. And when everything is ready, when He finishes His work in you, the one who keeps silent today will be the one who proclaims His glory tomorrow. The one who waits today will be the one who possesses the land tomorrow. The one who is silent today will be the one who has everything tomorrow. Reflect, share, and hold on to this truth. God says to you today, be silent, just wait, and everything will be yours.